Weak squares, weak pawns, you hear about them in every chess stream. But what exactly are they? How do we play with and against them? That's what we're going to learn today, and the focus of this video is going to be on weak squares. Let's start with the definition and then take a look at the basic and more complex examples. A weak square in opponent's position is a square that cannot easily be guarded by their pawns and can be attacked by our pieces. A successful play against a weak square happens when we're able not only to put a piece on that square, but to maintain it there. Therefore, the task of a defender is to control that square with enough pieces and prevent such establishment by opponent. Now, let's take a look at the position in front of us. What I would like you to do is perhaps to pause the video and try identifying a practical weakness in the black's position and devise a plan how white should be playing to take advantage of that weakness. And so in this position, the most practical weak square that white can play against is a square d5. That square cannot be ever guarded by opponent's pawns, and it is attacked by the white's piece. So one of the wrong moves that I see all the time at lower level is the move knight to d5. That's the wrong strategy because you're not able to maintain a piece on that square. After black takes that and you take back with either pawn, you didn't have actually a good knight that was established on that weak square. So a much better move would be something that fights for that square even more, and such move is knight to e3. Regardless of what black plays here, as white already has a huge advantage because black cannot win the control over d5, for example rook f e8, what would follow is simply one of the knights jumping to the d5 square, and this time after the exchange, white has established a beautiful knight that we call good knight against bad bishop. Knight is good because it's deep in the heart of opponent's position. It can never be kicked away. It can never be exchanged. It's as centralized as we would ever dream. And the bishop is bad because it's restricted by the fixed pawns of the same color. So we would say that white has a big strategic advantage. Now let's take a look at a little bit more complex position where it's black to play. And perhaps here you can try identifying a weak square that is practical to play for and a plan of how we can take advantage of it. This time, the weak square that black played against is the square f4. Because white is not threatening anything right away, white wants to bolster their position and use the structure that we call hanging pawns to take over advantage from blacks. Black has time to conduct an excellent maneuver of the knight to go to the square f4. Unfortunately for white, white has no initiative connected with, for example, a pawn move like d5. Black would just ignore it altogether and play the move knight g6, where we're aiming at the square f4. This didn't happen in the game. White simply tried to prophylactically move the king and queen away from the future fork. They played queen to f3, then king to f1, and just the very fact that the grandmaster is playing such moves means that white is really in trouble, because if there was any kind of counterplay, they would likely have found it. And in this position, I would like to show you another beautiful move that is not related to our topic directly, but it's so instructive that I couldn't not share it with you. Black played a shocking move, which you can pause the video and try finding. Knight h4, knight f4, they're all great moves. But what I like is the move f5. And at first, it doesn't make any sense. But the idea is that after white takes on f5, which they didn't, but if they did take on f5, our idea is to play rook f8, and because of the pin, we will be able to take the pawn back with the rook and double up the rooks on the f file to attack the king. For example, say queen to g2, rook f5, rook f8, and now all of the black's army is delivering a deadly attack against the white's king. Now when we go back to the position, perhaps you could understand why this bishop on b2 probably should be on a square g3. Somewhere in the opening, white played h3, g4, and so we found, or rather black found, a way to punish that by establishing a piece on one of those squares. So this bishop, probably white's king, is saying you are on the wrong side of the board. I hope you find this instructive. These things happen in absolutely every game you play, so they're very highly relevant for you. Try implementing that and looking for weak squares. You not only know how to play against them, but also with them, overprotect them. Do not allow opponent's pieces to be established on those squares, and you will be fine. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a comment, put a like on this video, and consider hiring me as your personal online chess coach. That's my full-time job for almost 10 years. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.